Welcome one and all. It's time for yet another Dwarf Old World Battle Report. This time against another rival Dwarf clan. So, the story behind this game is that I apparently signed up for a tournament this weekend and forgot about it. So, there's a lot of lists that I've been making lately that I've been planning to use at upcoming events, one of which I'm currently furiously painting a few models for. And one of the concepts I wanted to try out in a game was a heavy points denial list, which was recommended to me by someone down at the game club, and then I've taken that and within the confines of the Dwarf army list building tried to come up with something that will not give away points in a game of Warhammer the Old World. My opponent for this game is also testing out lists for a tournament. Clearly, Dwarf lists are not going to be geared to kill each other because dwarves are not the dominant meta right now. So why would you make a list to counter dwarves? So it's going to be interesting to see how these lists do against each other, even though they're clearly not designed for that job. So let's dive in and look at the lists. So my rangers have not been deployed yet. Don't be fooled, they're not a giant block. But that is an enormous unit of rangers. So let's go through my list, and then there'll be another picture in a minute when the rangers are deployed. So we have got, in this unit here, we have got Ungrim Iron Fist, the future Slayer King, along with the Thane BSB, who has the usual combo when teamed up with the Hammerers for all the anti-charge stuff. So you've got the Rune of Confusion, Hesitation, and the Master Rune of Grungni on the BSB as well. The 5+ ward save for the unit, which they usually need, because Hammerers are a bit fragile with only heavy armour. And I think I might have given mine shields as well. That is something you can do, especially if you think they're going to get shot a lot. And what else have we got in there? Oh yeah, so also on this unit we have the Rune of Battle as well. That is on the Hammerers with the Master Rune of Hesitation. So +1 combat resolution. So no one's going to want to charge them because you would die horribly. Then we've got an engineer with a handgun. So this isn't quite as good as the current Thane with a handgun build that people are doing, but I haven't finished painting mine yet, although it is on the table right now, hoping to finish that tonight in case I want to use it tomorrow. Hint, hint. So we've got an engineer with a handgun, Master Rune of Bursting Flame, and Rune of Rapid Fire. So 2 shots, and the shots explode into 2d3 hits each. So he's hanging out down there. Then we've got 2 war machines. Now, the idea for this list is to maybe have 2 grudge throwers in it rather than a cannon, so you've got a bit more reliability on them actually hitting occasionally. So there is a grudge thrower in there, and it has the Rune of Reloading. In case it misfires, it can still fire in the next turn, as long as it doesn't blow up. And the cannon has the Rune of Forging to reroll a misfire, and the Rune of Reloading in case it can't fire next turn. They're just little cheap upgrades. And then, to give you even more of an idea that this list wasn't built to counter dwarves, we've got a runesmith with 3 runes of spellbreaking for instant dispelling. We've then got a small unit of dwarf warriors back here, which is 7 dwarf warriors. So why the tiny unit of dwarf warriors? Well, you need to have at least 3 units in the army, and that's almost as small as you can go. And I didn't have any more models to represent my rangers, who are also the core. So most of the core is this massive block of rangers here, which is 31 rangers. Now, not all my lists that I'm toying around with have quite that many, but they have all the upgrades on them, and I'm not sure if these ones have throwing axes, actually. These ones might not do. But they've got the Rune of Courage, so that they don't run away, because they're a massive block. And then we've got the Doomseeker down there, who's naked. So, here is the plan for the list overall, not specifically for this game. The idea is that if my opponent wants to take points off me, they're going to have to kill one of these super units. If you want to charge into 31 rangers with great weapons that could potentially all be in a long line, then you are welcome to do that. If you can survive that stand and shoot, which they will have either with the crossbows or the throwing axes if you get close enough, and then all those great weapon hits, they could potentially be super wide. Same for the big blob of hammerers as well, with the heroes in there. So if you want to get any significant points off me, you have to kill one of those 2 super units. and I'm going to try and guard all my other units with those 2 super units. Apart from the Doomseeker, who's just going to run out on his own, hopefully won't get shot, and will reach the enemy and attack something and then die, is the plan for the Doomseeker. The reason Grudge Throwers would be better for this list is because you can just hide them directly behind your troops. You don't have to worry about line of sight or anything. So you're just going to be firing off into the distance and hoping for a direct hit and a low roll on the artillery dice so it doesn't scatter off the target. And try and kill something that way so the enemy want to move towards you. And then the Rangers are 30-inch range as well with their crossbows. So it's a significant range threat. And depending on the enemy, you would then decide how wide you want to go with the Rangers, and whether you want to put them in skirmish or open order. Okay, so that's that. Let's look at my opponent's list, which has also been designed with an upcoming tournament in mind. Not the same one I'm going to. So, mine was just the Grand Army. This is the Royal Clan I'm up against here. So we've got a King on Shield Bearers with a great weapon. The Master Rune of Smiting, which is a D6 wounds one, when you do some damage there. Rune of Fury, which I think is the extra attack, and 3 runes of shielding for the 4+ ward save. So a very survivable king with a load of wounds on shield bearers. There is a Thane who is actually the BSB, and I think he's in this unit. I'm not sure which one he is, or he might be in the Hammerers actually. Yeah, I think he is. There's a BSB in there, isn't there? There's 2 standard bearers. So this is one thing you can do with your BSB now. You can turn him into the handgun BSB. So this one has the Master Rune of Grungni and the Rune of Battle for the ward save and +1 combat res, and then the handgun has Rune of Rapid Fire, Rune of Bursting Flame, and Rune of Accuracy. So that's the super combo. So you never suffer any penalties to hit. You fire twice, and each hit turns into 2d3 hits. So you're always hitting on 3s no matter what. You could be moving around, you could be shooting at something in cover. It doesn't matter. You're always hitting on 3s with that Thane. So that's the killer combo at the moment with the Thane, but that's also the BSB in this list, which does save you some points, but there is a reason that you might want to take 2 Thanes or a King and a Thane in a list. If you're not taking a full-on King, you might want to take 2 Thanes, and there are benefits to having them. So if you have a King or a Thane in a unit, you get some bonuses. In Hammerers, you can issue and accept challenges with the normal Hammerers if you've got a Thane or a King in the unit, and also the unit that a King or a Thane is in, I think it works for both of them, you get hatred against enemy characters, which is quite good. And especially if you're thinking about coming up against giant flying monsters, which is obviously terrifying in the meta at the moment. There is an Anvil of Doom in here, which has 2 runes of warding, which is the once per game 2+ ward save, and 2 of them. So it's always tough to decide how to make your anvil more survivable. You've got lots of different rune options. You can reduce multi-wound attacks, you can increase the toughness, but they don't necessarily protect you in all the different phases of the game as much as you would like. So I don't think there's a perfect combo for protecting the anvil, because you could get shot by a cannonball that's super high strength and does multiple damage. You could get attacked in combat by chaff that just has more attacks. So you have to be prepared for a lot of eventualities, but 2 2+ ward saves, that's going to deny a couple of cannonballs, so that could be good. In core, there are 20 Royal Clan warriors who have the King in them, and they are drilled, stubborn, veteran. And, oh yeah, if I didn't mention it, my Hammerers are drilled as well. And these Royal Clan warriors have the Rune of Battle and the Master Rune of Hesitation. So I think, let's see, oh yeah, also in core, 6 Quarrelers, 5 Quarrelers, and 5 more Quarrelers. So there's 5 there, and on this side there's a 6 and a 5. And then back into the middle we've got 15 Hammerers, and they have the Rune of Confusion, so the combo with the BSB in there. And then in rare there are 13 Iron Drakes. And they do not have a Trollhammer Torpedo, so controversial. They have the Stroller's Rune to move up 3 inches. They do have Cinderblast Bombs. So, neither of these lists designed to face other dwarves, but if we look at it, as I've set up my ranges here, I think my list has the significant advantage over the enemy list. Because how are we going to score? I am quite easily surely going to kill some of these small shooting units with my enormous shooting block of 31 rangers. And I don't think any of the enemy shooting units are going to worry me too much. So I think purely in this matchup, my list would probably win more often than not, unless I do something silly. But obviously, facing other threats, then the opposing list would have advantages. For example, Iron Drakes are really good in certain situations. You're coming up against Knights, they're very good with their high strength and AP. You can be wounding Bretonnian Knights of the Realm on 2s, which is good with Iron Drakes with the strength 5. And King on Shield Bearer is very survivable, more survivable than Ungrim probably. Has more wounds, has a better save. But Ungrim, of course, is really good against monsters, just needs to get a wound through, and I think it's if you roll a 6 to wound, then you can just slay that monster immediately. So they both have their advantages and disadvantages. Ungrim also makes these hammers unbreakable. And my rangers have the rune that makes them pass any fear or terror tests. So it's going to be an interesting one. Not designed to face each other, but I think mine has the edge purely in a mirror match. So let's go into the first turn, and I'm going first. So the Doomseeker, who I'm kind of regretting already putting out on the flank when I measure how far 6 inches is into the table, because he's really far from the enemy. I just didn't want him to get shot immediately. I wanted him to actually have a chance of getting into combat. In a tournament setting, you don't want there to be a chance of the Doomseeker costing you the game, which is why I've gone for 1 Doomseeker, because if you take 2, then that's 100 points, and in the square-based Old World TSN events, 100 points is the difference between a win and a draw. So, if the grudge throwers just miss all throughout the game, don't kill anything, and the enemy refuses to engage my mega block units, then if the Doomseeker doesn't die, if I have 2 of them, then that means I just lose. So I'd be reduced to the Doomseekers moving back and forth through difficult terrain, trying to kill themselves by rolling a 1, which is not optimal, as you can imagine. So, purely in a tournament setting, I think 1 Doomseeker is the sweet spot if the scoring system is the way it is there. So, we're going to zoom in on the butt cheeks as well, because why not? Looking very smooth there. And shooting in the first turn, let's see, what do the Rangers get done? They kill a few Quarrelers from one of the units, who then fail their leadership and fall back in good order after panicking a bit. The Grudge Thrower doesn't manage to do any damage this turn. You can see that the Hammerers have shields on their backs. I need to actually paint up some shields to put on the backs of my Hammerers, because when you're running them that way, ideally you do want that to be represented on the models. Then, look at that cinematic shot of over the shoulder of Ungrim and the Hammerers towards the enemy. And you can see that I put 1 wound onto the anvil as well, which was, I think it was the Grudge Thrower. And my opponent decided, you know what, I'm not going to use my 2-up ward save yet. I'm going to save that and see if I can just make this with my normal ward first of all, while it's still healthy, and save the 2-up ward for later. Now, statistically, I'm not 100% sure on whether it makes too much difference if you just take them first. It depends what's hitting you, I suppose. So it only ends up taking 1 wound, though. Then, into the enemy turn, and the Quarrelers unleash their bolts, and one of the Hammerers is dead. Now, the enemy Anvil of Doom is potentially totally pointless in this matchup offensively, because I can just deploy outside of 27 inches and not move within 27 inches, because I'm not planning to move anyway. I've got the shooting range superiority. But I think I did move backwards actually in turn 1, because I did deploy a little bit far up. But with the Runesmith has now moved into the unit of Rangers. I don't know if I mentioned that. So that's why they've deployed so close to my zone here. So the Runesmith could walk straight in there and now give them Armor Bane 2 on their crossbows. And that also puts Magic Resistance 2 on both my big blocks, which might come up. But in general, it's a good idea. I think these 2 big unkillable blocks with Magic Resistance 2 is a good concept. It doesn't protect you from a pillar of fire, but then again, what does? Apart from being an Iron Drake and having a ward save. And that's something that will come up in this game actually, because the Runesmith being in there also gives the Rangers flaming attacks, which means the Iron Drakes will have a ward save against the Rangers while he's in the unit. Okay, turn 2 for me, and the enemy Dwarves haven't done too much. The Iron Drake's moved up a bit. Into my turn. Stu says that range block is insane, but makes perfect sense in the Lionhammer world we live in. Yes, and even if you're not going crazy in the Lionhammer world, you can still just run it as a block. So you'd have less on the shooting ability, less stand and shoot, but you would have ranks of dudes to absorb damage. So what you can also do is put the other special character in there. What's his name again? Let's have a look. It's his full name to give him his proper title. Thorgrim Ulexon. So if you put him in a unit, and then you drop his Oathstone, then you can make that unit unbreakable. Now, I don't know if you can use him and Ungrim in the same list. Giovanni says, Lionhammer is the effective Dragon Hammer. I think so. I think the only thing to deter a dragon, because they're going to come in and probably kill 5 of you, let's say. If there's 20 more dudes in the front rank, that's going to give any dragon pause for thought, isn't it? So I think there is some truth to that. So the Grudge Thrower fails again, and I'm whittling down these Quarreler units with my Rangers and my Engineer with the Bursting Gun, who is staying within 3 inches of the War Machine, by the way, so it can't be targeted by anything. Whittling them down, the Cannon takes out a few Hammerers, and that's it for the turn. So not too much action yet. Is it going to get spicy though? Turn 2 for the enemy. The Iron Drakes are still moving up, ready to shoot, and this unit of Dwarves over here have been propelled down the flank by the Anvil, so they're making some quite good headway towards me. But purely in this matchup, I could just move backwards away from them, and I don't think they would get to fight. So all the Quarrelers shooting, they managed to kill a couple more Hammerers. So I'm not concerned about the shooting from the enemy, it's not going to do that much. The Iron Drakes do then shoot and kill a few more. And at this point, I'm not really concerned, because I'm thinking I'm going to kill all the Quarrelers next turn anyway, probably, because my Rangers are going to shoot them, and I've got my Engineer as well. Or I could just start shooting up Iron Drakes and take out even more of a threat. So I think the shooting edge is still mine, and I'm not concerned about this unit dying at all. I don't think that's on the cards, with them being unbreakable as well. I'd be more concerned about this unit of 7 Dwarf Warriors dying, and therefore losing the game if nothing else died. But I don't think we're worrying about that yet. So there's the state of play. The Doomseeker is going to have a couple more turns of moving before he can get into range to charge the enemy, so it would have been better probably to put him on this flank where the hill is, so we could go straight towards the enemy. Although he would have undoubtedly been killed turn 1 by the Iron Drakes, but at least that would stop the points going to the enemy if he somehow survives the game. So, into my 3. The Doomseeker, moving up again. Getting closer, the Rangers fire, the Engineer fires, and take down a decent number of Iron Drakes. They do make some of their ward saves against the Rangers, who now have flaming attacks because of the Runesmith. So that was something I only realised after firing the shots. And I'd say it's probably better to shoot them without a Runesmith in there, because you've still got Armorbane 2. You don't need Armorbane 4 against Iron Drakes, really. The Cannon and the Grudge Thrower unload, and between them managed to take out some more Hammerers, which is nice. So the Hammerers are not looking too healthy. They do not want to come forward because they'd just be shot to bits and would be giving up points now. So all they're doing is camping there, and the BSB is firing a handgun out of the unit from this point on. So I'm still pretty happy with how this is looking into turn 3. And before we get to that turn, I took a picture of the game that was also going on at the old game club. And it was also Dwarves against Chaos Dwarves. And it's a swarm of gyrocopters. So it's the maximum number of copters you can get in. It's the engineering list. Some of them are scout copters, some of them are regular copters. And there's so many of them. And a gyro bomber in there as well. And it seemed like the strategy was all the copters move forward as fast as possible. First turn, march straight over the enemy lines, and then start causing havoc from there. And other than that, there's not much in the list, because you can take some gyrocopters as core in the engineers list. So, pretty hilarious. I don't know who won this game, by the way, because our game finished first, but this does look entertaining. So back to this game, which doesn't quite look as entertaining. And The Royal Clan Warriors are slowly working their way forwards. I could avoid them, or I could throw Dwarf Warriors into their path if I didn't want to fight them, but I think they'd struggle to kill the Hammerers. And the Hammerers might struggle to kill them. They decide that they're going to go stay in marching column and just advance out of my charge arc, so I can't charge them. Then, all the shooting attacks from the handgun on the BSB and the Quarrelers, and those Quarrelers as well. They kill another Hammerer or two, maybe. Not much, nothing to worry about. And the Anvil, even though I've now swung round into range for the Anvil to shoot me with its magic missile, keeps failing because of the magic resistance 2, which is quite a difficult barrier to get over. And there you go. So, somehow, I haven't killed any of these little units yet, but I'm going to start putting resources into killing them now, because we're in turn 4. I've only got 3 turns left to shoot them. So I'm going to start trying to take out full units now. So I'm going to put all the front rank of the Rangers into this small unit of Quarrelers. And I'm resisting the temptation to go wider with the Rangers yet, because I don't want to start blocking lines of sight to the cannon. I could have put them over on this side to face down the Royal Clan Warriors, but I would be concerned that if I had a bad round of shooting or two, they would get in, and they may eventually get through the Rangers. Because, see, I would only have a runesmith in there, and that king would be very tough to take down. So even with the great weapons, I'm not sure whether that would go my way. So I thought this side was safer, just to shoot a few small units and then don't even try and kill the big unit, because my big units aren't going to die anyway. Turn 4 for me. Well, those are the wound rolls from my engineer's handgun. Hits with 2 shots, explodes into a load of shots, and then is wounding dwarves on 4s, and I couldn't even roll any 3s. There you go. I think he was shooting at the Iron Drakes. So, really, you would have been hoping to wound 5 of them out of that lot. Alas, 0 wounds from the engineer. And the Hammerers turn round and say, if you would like to charge our warriors, you may, and then we'll charge you in the flank and kill you. And my Quarrelers also failed to kill a single model this round as well. Put everything they had into this unit here, but just rolled terribly. All the shooting just failed in this turn. Horrifically bad. Although the Doomseeker is now in position where he could maybe try and charge next turn, so let's see if the enemy move away from him, see how terrified they are. So you can see I've killed quite a lot of models, but all from different units, so nothing's actually dead yet. Turn 4 for the enemy. And they decide, instead of charging foolishly into this unit, they're just going to turn sideways and use drilled and invite the Hammerers in for a charge. Which I'm not going to do, because at this stage I think I'm still going to win, because I'm probably going to kill these 3 units by the end. And my opponent, in theory, isn't going to kill anything by the end. May score for the Doomseeker if it doesn't reach the enemy, because these Quarrelers are actively moving away from him now, because they're so terrified of Mr. Doomseeker. So I just want to avoid combat here, and that should be enough for the win, I'm estimating. Then, I do lose a couple more Hammerers to shooting, but nothing significant. And into my turn 5, so still not much action, but it does make for a nice quick battle report. The Hammerers just turn to face the enemy, but don't give them an easy charge. I'm not that eager to fight them. They're probably not that eager to charge into me either, because I'm going to be striking first with extra attacks. Then the Rangers. Well, pathetic. One of them is dead, one of the Quarrelers. The Rangers only kill 1. So out of 2 turns of the entire front rank of 15 Rangers shooting, they kill 1 Quarreler. The Engineer this turn does kill off a few Iron Drakes, so that's going much better there. And the Doomseeker is now definitely in position to declare a charge soon. The Artillery, the Cannon and the Grudge Thrower fail on the Anvil of Doom. I think it had to use its 2-up ward to protect against one of those, though. Okay, so you can see I moved my normal Dwarf Warriors back a bit, because I don't want to give up easy points, because it's actually getting a bit dicey now, because my shooting is failing so horribly that all these units are still alive. And it'd be tempting to say, why aren't you focus firing? I kind of have been focus firing. You would think 15 Rangers at short range hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, would be able to kill more than one dwarf. Turn 5 for the enemy. The Royal Clan Warriors advance on the hammerers and just stare them down, because they would rather I charge them, because then I'm going to have fewer attacks when I hit them. And everything else fires off shots, and that's it. Doesn't really accomplish much with the shooting this turn. Into my turn 6. So what can I kill in this turn? Well, the Doomseeker is going to try and charge one of these units. Whoever's closest. If he makes it, then I'll shoot the other units. If he doesn't make it, I'll try and shoot this one with the Rangers. Surely they can kill them. The Engineer could potentially kill either of these 2 units as well, because the Engineer does not give the Iron Drakes a ward save with his handgun, because he does not have flaming attacks. So, ideally I could kill both those units. I'm not going to attack this unit though. So the Hammerers could have moved backwards in this situation to avoid fighting even more, but instead I decided I'm just going to taunt them, move right up to them. It doesn't actually matter how close you are to the enemy really with the Hammerers, because with the anti-charge banners and the BSB as well, then even if you do charge, you won't count as charging, so they wouldn't get their +1 strength for being Royal Clan anyway. So the Rangers managed to get this Orally unit down to 1, who then flees. So as long as he continues fleeing, I will score some points, because they're below 25% and fleeing. And this unit was knocked down to 1 as well, but he passes his leadership, and then the Doomseeker fails his charge. So he's going to be costing me 50 points now, because he's not dead. So I've killed 0 units and all my turns are over. So that is actually hilarious. I don't understand how these 4 units are all still standing. I could understand maybe the Iron Drakes, because they've got good armor saves and there was 15 of them. But these 3 units, it's almost comical that they're still alive. Turn 6 for the enemy. And in go the Royal Clan Warriors. The plan for the enemy here is to try and get the King on Shield Bearers to punch Ungrim in the face and get a wound through, and then do the d6 wounds and kill him, which would be enough to win the game. My plan is to not let that happen. So the enemy wisely do not issue a challenge, because if you issue it with the champion, I would accept with Ungrim, so Ungrim can't be hit by the king. If you issue it with the king, I would accept with one of my hammerers, so that your king still can't hit Ungrim. So I do issue a challenge with one of the normal hammerers, and that's then accepted by the Royal Clan champion. And at the end of combat, you can see that Ungrim does take wounds, because he does get punched by pretty much everything. I do have to make a 5-up ward save to prevent him taking d6 wounds from the King on Shield Bearers, but I do roll a successful save on him there. Nothing happens in the challenge. Just very little dies at all. Ungrim takes 1 wound. And that's how the game's going to end. So, what is scoring? Because this unit of warriors actually got shot up a bit. So they are now 2 out of 7, which is not below 25%, so they're not giving away points. The Doomseekers are giving away 50 points, and that's it. For the enemy, we've got 1 fleeing Quarreler, who is in a unit, so he's below 25% and is fleeing, and then this one is below 25% as well. So, it ends up being somewhere in the region of 50 points to like 38. So clearly a draw by any metric. And what did we learn today? I don't know exactly. We learned that these rangers, no one's going to bother attacking them, surely, unless they have to. Because 31 of them, what are you going to do? You're going to charge in and get hit with all those great weapons? Because if I'm against a combat heavy army, I could make them super wide and just stretch across the whole table. Not against Bretonnians, because then they'd just get hit by like 2 units of Pegasus Knights, a Duke, a Standard Bearer, and a unit of Knights all at the same time, and that would be enough to kill a lot of them. So against a really fast army that can multi-charge you, you don't want to be going super duper wide. But if there's just like a Chaos Dragon and a load of Chaos Warriors, come on then, Mr. Chaos Dragon, what are you going to do against 31 Rangers? Not a lot. And shooting can go that way sometimes. You saw the wound rolls for the Engineer in one of the turns. That could have been enough to kill off the Iron Drakes, which would transform it into a win. If I'd totally killed off 2 of these units, that would have made it a win. If Ungrim had died, that would have been a loss. If this unit had taken 1 more wound, that could have turned it into a loss as well. Possibly. So, yeah, I quite like this as a concept, and I could have been more careful with my hammers. I didn't have to keep them in range of the enemy shooting for the whole game. I was just so confident they weren't going to die. So really, I could have deployed them further back. I could have stayed out of range of the anvil, which did actually get a chance to shoot me at one point. So I could have kept them all the way back here. They're unbreakable. As long as you don't put them in position where giving ground would take you off the table, then you're alright. And if you put another unit right behind them, for example these dwarf warriors, then since you're always giving ground with unbreakable, you'll just bounce into your own unit and stay there anyway. So it's going to be interesting. I'm not going to run this exact list at a tournament, because this was kind of a filler list while I'm painting other units. I am working on some more stuff right now, hopefully to get ready for tomorrow. I'm working on the Thane with a handgun and another grudge thrower. So we'll see if I get those ready, and might well be taking something like this to an event. We'll see how it does. I struggle to see where the enemy would get points off me unless I deploy badly. We could end up with some total stalemate games, like this accidentally turned into. We could see some games where the enemy think, I don't want to touch any of those super units, I'm just going to hide, and then I'll lob rocks at them. And hopefully I then kill something so that they then think, oh, I'm going to lose, I'm going to run straight towards the enemy and get shot. Seems like a long shot, but you never know. And I'm not going to deploy super defensively, because I want the rangers to be able to shoot things. So, looking forward to that event, even though I'd forgot that I'd actually signed up to it. So that's this weekend. I've also got an Age of Sigmar battle report tomorrow, which I played earlier in the week, which is Stormcast Eternals back against Slaves to Darkness. And then next week, it's Clash of Kings, the biggest Kings of War tournament ever, over 200 players, and I'll be taking my Abyssal Dwarves to that. And I've just submitted my list for that event, actually. So, looking forward to that. I'm running quite a fast Abyssal Dwarf list for any Kings of War fiends out there who may be familiar with the army. Usually they're quite slow, with golems. And I've been running some very fast lists the last few years. The last couple of years. And been doing alright. So looking forward to that. That's going to be 6 games. That's going to be a very long tournament report next week. So the non-stop content mill continues to churn out content on this channel, as the name would suggest. And if you've got any thoughts on these 2 lists, on how you think they would do against other armies rather than just against each other, then let me know. If you would suggest any tweaks to them, if you think either one of them is going to do better coming up against certain things, let me know. Who would do better against a dragon list, who would do better against a level 4 wizard spam list, for example. That'd be an interesting conversation to have. Russell says, let's go Remington. Well, I don't know when the next game with Rem's going to be. I'll have to ask him. But he is still in the country at the moment. He's not back on tour for a few weeks, so we might be able to get another game in after the one we had last week with his dwarf army. I think he's getting his wood elves out again next. Okay, so in a game of dwarves versus dwarves, the dwarves couldn't even win. Isn't that just typical dwarf behaviour? Okay, let's wrap this one up, because I've got furious painting to do. I've got... If I want to paint the War Machine crew as well, and don't just tag in some alternative War Machine crew from a different machine tomorrow, then I've got 5 models to paint. We'll see if I can do that in... How much sleep do I need before an event? Probably I could do with going to sleep in about 3 hours' time, so we'll see if I can squeeze all the painting in by then. Wish me luck. Okay, don't forget to check out all the links in the description, don't forget to like the video and subscribe and all that good stuff, don't forget to check out all the social media shenanigans, and of course if you want to keep the non-stop content lava flowing out of the volcano that this channel is, into the great magma pools of Battle Report, then why not pledge your entire life savings on the Patreon or PayPal, or if you have to buy important things like food or pay your rent or other things that really should be coming second to the Battle Report content on this channel. But if you've got your priorities kind of messed up, I'll accept just a portion of the life savings instead. I think that sounds fair. Okay, thanks for tuning in everybody, and I'll see you for more live streams tomorrow and maybe Sunday as well. Good night out there. Whatever you are.